One of the things I'm so compelled that you address is how love is not a feeling, it's an orientation, this existential posture, but it's not a stagnant posture. It gets lived out in moral agency, that it informs justice. How do you connect our moral lives, our ethical lives, with being loved?
Finding the right language for that feels really challenging to me. What happens to me if I really believe that God loves widows and orphans? How does that affect how I walk down the street? What are the things that I truly value, right? The God of the Hebrew Bible loves the ger in Hebrew, the stranger, the immigrant. Like, how do I treat those who are outsiders who have come to live with me, right? Like, that's like an essential question for the Hebrew Bible, right? Can I share an experience I had that it overwhelmed me? Actually, it was one of the moments where I thought, this is why I've been doing this my whole life. I got an email this summer from a student of mine. I had given a class earlier that day in our summer program for college students about love of the widow, the orphan, and the stranger in the Hebrew Bible. And I said to them, as I sometimes do, and it's a little over the top, I said, here in New York City, there are people who are God's very favorite people. In the language of rabbinic tradition, they are members of God's own household. But here's the thing. They are not hedge fund managers. They are not lawyers. They are not doctors. They are the homeless guys in this neighborhood who sleep in their own urine. Those guys, those are God's favorite people in this city. Okay? And if we're not willing to at least wrestle with that, we are not in the conversation of Torah yet. Mm-hmm. And I got an email that night from a student, which just broke me wide open. He said, I just want to tell you where I've been tonight. I was walking home and I passed a homeless guy and I gave him a quarter and I kept walking. And then I stopped and I said, wait a minute. Rabbi Held said that to us, but he said that to us in this city, which is so much like Sodom. And he said, I just got back from spending 4 hours sitting on a grate with him, asking him about his life story, because I just figured it had probably been a while since anyone cared to listen. Thank you for teaching me Torah. And I was like, you know what? Everything I do is worth it just for this, just for that. We didn't solve homelessness. We didn't, overcome the epidemic of cruelty. No, we didn't do any of that. But he showed up as like a human in the most beautiful way. He channeled God's own love of this guy who has nothing. What else? What else, right? Like, that's what we're capable of.
Extraordinary. The phrase that came to mind was he just unleashed God's ferocious love on that person.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. If we accept that love is really at the heart of faith, what does that mean for how you understand the good life? And a word I use in my work is thriving.
Thriving, I think, is about kind of an attentive growing in love, right? We grow in our capacity to receive love. We grow in our capacity to give love. And at moments, at least, we see organically how those are the same thing, right? Like that is flourishing, right? That is eudaimonia, right? That's what that is, right? Like in that moment when gosh, I want you to flourish and thrive and you want me to flourish, and we're just here together, right? There's a custom at the end of Shabbat. One of the rituals we do is we recite a blessing on a candle in a dark space. And we look at our fingernails through the light. And there are an endless array of interpretations about what that means and why we're doing it. But one interpretation that I really love is that the reason we look at our fingernails is before we go back out of Shabbat and into the rest of our lives, we remind ourselves that there is currently no blood under our fingernails. It's
Mm.
possible to live without scraping other people. You can
Mm.
actually live generously and big-heartedly and want other people to partake of all the blessings that you have.
Mm.
To me, that really is flourishing. But what I want to say to make this more accessible is, right, you don't have to be the perfect embodiment of this all the time. There is such a thing as growing, right? Like, sometimes the danger of the language of love is that people are like, well, I will never be able to do this. And it's like, first of all, you may never be able to be a full embodiment of this. Only God is, right? But really, there are no moments when you've ever done this, when you've just forgotten yourself in a moment of caring for another person, when someone loved you and you just received it. You didn't doubt them. You didn't question them. You didn't try to convince them that you were unworthy. You just received it. Those are moments of flourishing. That's what that is. That is the moment of being fully alive, blessedly alive, receiving the divine gift of life in its fullness.